The film begins after World War II, with Rachel on her way to the German city of Hamburg. Rachel is the wife of a British colonel named Lewis. When she arrives, Lewis is waiting for her at the train station to welcome her. He tells her that he has rented a new house from a German engineer named Lubert. When they arrive at the house, Lubert introduces himself, saying that he is an architect and has lived in Hamburg since he was born. He then introduces them to his daughter, Frieda, who suffers from social anxiety and refuses to interact with anyone. Lubert asks if he and his daughter can stay with them for just 2 days until he moves to the camp, and Lewis agrees. At the end of the day, Rachel talks with her husband about their son, who died during the war. They are both deeply affected by his death, as he was killed during a German air raid on Britain. Lewis blames Rachel for their son's death, holding her responsible because she was with him at the time of the attack. The next morning, Rachel wakes up to find that Lewis has gone to work, leaving her alone. She begins exploring the house, and while passing by Frieda's room, she finds her sitting on the floor. Rachel tries to speak to her, but Frieda doesn't respond, so she leaves. Rachel then heads to the kitchen to have breakfast. At that moment, Lewis returns, and they eat together. After breakfast, he suggests letting Lubert's family stay in the same house. Lubert and his daughter would live upstairs while he and Rachel stay downstairs. Rachel firmly refuses this idea, as she doesn't want to live with a German family, whom she still blames for her son's death. The following day, Rachel goes to a restaurant on the outskirts of the city to meet her friend Susan, the wife of British Colonel Bernardo, Lewis's colleague but his complete opposite in character. Rachel tells Susan that Lewis allowed Lubert's family to stay with them. Susan warns her against this family because of the class differences between them. When Rachel returns home and sits in the living room, Lubert comes downstairs and tries to speak with her. However, Rachel becomes upset and tells him to stay upstairs with his daughter. Lubert apologizes for intruding and retreats back to his room. From that moment on, they ignore each other and have no interaction. The next day, Rachel prepares the dining table because Lewis had planned a gathering for his colleagues. But Lewis informs her that he won't be attending the party due to demonstrations in the city and apologizes as he has to go to work. Meanwhile, Lubert witnesses the demonstration while walking outside. He sees a woman fall to the ground and tries to help her, but he ends up injured in the head and returns home wounded. When Rachel sees him, she feels pity for him and tends to his wound. At that moment, they both confess their love for each other, and a relationship begins between them. That night, Lewis returns home and notices Lubert's injury. Lubert explains that he was hurt during the protest, but deep down, he is anxious and fearful that Lewis might discover his relationship with Rachel. The next day, Lewis has lunch with Rachel and tells her he must travel for 6 days outside the city. He apologizes for leaving her for so long, explaining that it is part of his duty. Rachel tries to talk to him about their deceased son, but Lewis refuses, insisting she is to blame for his death. He leaves his food unfinished and goes to prepare for his trip, while Rachel watches him from the window as he departs, feeling guilty about their son's death. The following morning, Rachel invites Lubert and his daughter to have breakfast with her. She tells them that her hairdresser is coming that day and suggests that Frieda try a new haircut. For the first time, Frieda speaks to Rachel after having remained silent for so long due to her social withdrawal. After breakfast, they all watch a film in the living room, but during the screening, Lubert and Rachel keep looking at each other, ignoring the movie entirely. Afterward, they go together to the forest, where Lubert has rented a room in a hotel. He confesses his love for her, and they spend the day together. That evening, he promises to build her a big house if she decides to live with him and leave her husband Lewis. Rachel agrees and decides to separate from Lewis, arguing that he has neglected her since their son's death. The next day, they return to the forest, where the freezing cold and snow surround them. They play with snowballs, enjoying each other's company and affection, even though she is still married to another man. The following morning, Lewis returns from his trip. When he enters the house, he finds Rachel playing the piano, completely immersed and unaware of his arrival. He approaches her and tells her that he's back, then asks her to call Lubert because he has good news to share. Once everyone gathers, Lewis announces that he has been promoted and will be taking up a new position in London. Rachel is stunned by this news and glances at Lubert, unable to respond. At the end of the day, Rachel prepares with her husband to attend an important party hosted by prominent figures in Germany. After putting on her dress, she asks Lewis if she can go back to change into something else. As soon as Rachel goes upstairs to her room, she finds Lubert waiting for her. He tells her that he will be leaving the house in the morning and insists that she must go with him. He threatens that if she does not confess her relationship to Louis, then he himself will. Then he leaves her and walks away. Rachel goes back down to Louis without having changed her dress, as she had told him, but he does not pay much attention to it. When they arrive at the party, Louis goes to speak with his friend Bernardo. During their conversation, Bernardo hints to Louis that Rachel is having an affair with Lubert. Furious, Louis goes to Rachel and asks her to dance with him. While they are dancing, he tells her that he knows about her relationship with Lubert. Rachel apologizes and shows regret for what she has done, but she blames Louis, saying he neglected her and constantly accused her of being responsible for their son's death. Louis remains silent, which angers Rachel, and she storms out of the party. Louis quickly follows her to bring her back. He asks his driver for the car keys so he can drive himself. On their way back, they are ambushed by gunfire from a young German resistance fighter named Albert, who was secretly in a relationship with Frida, Lubert's daughter. One of the bullets strikes the driver, who was sitting in Louis's place, killing him instantly. Louis gets out of the car to chase Albert, seeking revenge for the driver's death. The chase leads them onto thin ice, which breaks under Albert's weight, causing him to fall into the freezing water. At that moment, Frida arrives, trying desperately to save him, but Louis stops her, afraid she might fall in as well. An ambulance arrives to take the driver's body, and Lubert comes to take his daughter Frida. She confesses to him that she was secretly involved with one of the German fighters and that he was the one who killed the driver. Lubert reassures her, telling her that he trusts her and that the fault lies with Albert, not her. They return home together. Meanwhile, Louis and Rachel are also on their way back home, remaining silent and distant the entire trip. When they arrive, Lubert speaks privately with Rachel and tells her that they should leave the house the next day and start a new life together, after she separates from Louis. The next morning, Rachel decides to confront Louis with the truth. She tells him that she can no longer live with him. But he ignores her words and again blames her for their son's death. At that moment, she decides to leave him and be with Lubert, moving into a new house together. Louis responds by admitting that he has never been able to move past their son's death and that he neglected her because every time he looked at her, he saw his son's features in her face. He then tells her that he wishes her happiness and bids her farewell. After Rachel leaves with Lubert, Louis goes upstairs and finds their son's clothes, which Rachel had left behind. He holds them close, smelling them to remember his son, and breaks down in tears. At the same time, Rachel and Lubert are on their way to their new home. When they reach the station and the train arrives, Lubert calls out to her, but at that very moment, Rachel decides to return to Louis, feeling remorse for leaving him while he was still grieving for their son. She bids farewell to Lubert and Frida, and goes back to Louis, apologizing for her betrayal and her affair with another man. She promises him that together they will overcome the pain of their son's loss and start a new life. And thus, the film comes to an end. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video.